5.
Okay, guys, I really just want to say, with everything in me, I cannot stand lapels. And for anybody who doesn't know what a lapel is this mic, and that's because I actually have no idea how to place a lapel properly. You know what I mean? Like, lapels are great for sound, but lapels are genuinely, when you don't know what you're doing here, it just becomes such a hot mess. Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here today, please make sure to smash that subscribe button, and for all my returning subscribers, welcome to another video about your ultimate fave. Yes, your ultimate fave is wearing makeup. Oh, no, not even makeup. Yes, your ultimate fave is wearing red lipstick. Yes, I do not like any moment of this. I love red lipstick, I just love it on other people, not myself. So yeah, it's a bit of a little interesting kind of setup that we have here. But guys, for today's video, I'm really excited to be doing this video because I have been wanting to do this video for a hot minute now, but I guess what kind of shied me away from it is because I thought that a lot of people already know these kind of realities that I plan to speak about in terms of this video. But I thought there might be people who are jumping into the influencer space who have this really idyllic perception about what influencer is and how great it could be and the potential that it has. But the one thing we never really talk about is the reality of being an influencer and a content creator and the cons that kind of come with it, you know what I mean? And that's one of the things that I've experienced, and I do want to share on this platform, that being an influencer, or at least when you're labeled as one. So guys, I hate the term influencer. I've always preferred the term digital content creator because I feel like that's essentially where my strengths lie, creating video content for you guys. But when you look at it from a holistic view, being an influencer is obviously having the ability to influence people, whether it's in one small way or the other. And I don't necessarily blame people or brands or agencies for referring to me as an influencer, because that has kind of become my job. I'm so sorry, I saw this really weird bird and I almost screamed the loudest scrumped I've ever scrumped. Right, essentially there are so many perks to being an influencer, to working in the job that you love if it's content creation, and a lot of it comes with obviously free stuff. It comes with being invited to the coolest events. It just comes with so many perks that I really don't want to lie, they're great. There's just like a different way that you're perceived in society when you become an influencer. It's the craziest thing. It's like, for me, I've never really wanted to become an influencer. I wanted to be a digital content creator. I wanted to be known for my YouTube videos, which is what eventually happened. But inadvertently, it obviously garnered me this newfound I don't want to even call it fame because I don't think that's what it is, but this newfound admiration from people that always seems to shock me, because every time people meet me, they're like, oh my gosh, you're so nice. And in my head, I'm like, what? So I think it's just, there are perks to being an influencer, especially if it's something you're passionate about. There are perks to it. Everybody knows it's not a state secret. But there are also the harsh realities of being an influencer, and these are the things that nobody talks about, like the last thing I would ever want to do is take an 18, 19-year-old who probably has other dreams or maybe wants to get into the space but has this kind of mirage of what content creation is when it's actually not, okay? One thing I will tell you, well, I've got the pros and cons. Let me actually start with them and just jump right into them before I end up like rambling, right? I wrote them all down. I had an idea of like, what are the cons of actually being an influencer? And I've experienced quite a few. So I think what I'm gonna do is just obviously reading them out for you, right? The first con of being a content creator or an influencer is the work that goes into it. Now, a lot of people think being a content creator means posting cute pictures, looking good on the socials, having a large following, and just being able to influence people to do the smallest things, right? And yes, that may be true. But the con of being an influencer is definitely, there is a lot of work involved. There is a lot of creative processes that goes into the background of creating a video like that, like, or a picture. You see a picture on Instagram, you're like, wow, this picture is ridiculously beautiful, but then you don't see the processes that go behind that. They are some of the biggest influencers who hire videographers, who hire photographers, who hire location spaces, who hire all these things to create that one perfect moment that may seem so effortless to society, the media, but there is so much work that goes behind it. I, for one, will tell you that I was forced to level up. When I saw what my competitors were doing, when I saw what my friends were doing, I think I rode the wave of being relatable for so long that when it was time to produce the work, I was just like, what? I signed up for this? What is this? What is this, honey? It was a shock to the system. It was so like difficult to realize that every morning when I woke up, I needed to have work to be done, videos to be done, pictures to be done. And now remember that even when you do that stuff, you need to wait for approval. It can be declined. You might end up having to reshoot it 3 times. You might end up having to reshoot it 5 times. You might end up having to take 10 pictures instead of 1. There is so much work that goes into producing content. That is why very few people have nailed the concept, because they understand that it's a job. That's why people always say to you, content creation is a job, because it's not just the simplicity of taking a picture. Yes, some people gain that kind of, you know, influencer like status because of their great pictures, but there are some people who are content creators where this is a job, and perfection is not it's not an option. Like it just has to be done. You know what I mean? You can't aim for anything less than perfection, because if you do, you know the risk you play by having to reshoot it again, and that's money essentially. So there's a lot of work. I think people obviously take it for granted. I know with me, even in YouTube, I have inboxes every other day, second day. Please review this, please review this, please review this, please review this. And I'm like, if people only understood how much work it takes to make a video, okay, to record one, to do my makeup, to record a video, to edit a video, to upload a video, like just all of that work on its own, I've even managed to develop a cost for it because it's so expensive. You know what I mean? Imagine it as though it's like a production. A production will always have your script writer, your content head, your this, your this, your this. To create a production and to be able to do it one man, you're doing the job of so many people. So when people always ask me like, you haven't released in 4 days, what's going on? It's because just releasing one video on its own can literally take up 3-4 hours of your day, and then to release it and then to have to do so many videos. So it is a lot of work, and I think people kind of downplay how much work it actually is, which is why I totally understand when my peers don't release as much, because I have put this unnecessary pressure on myself. But that's just because I am very competitive with myself. You know what I mean? So I just love releasing content. It's been nothing new for me, which is what makes it easier, but it doesn't make it any less tough or any less strenuous. You know what I mean? And then the second thing that I really want to talk about is the competition in being an influencer. There is so much competition that nobody talks about. And not to say that they are gatekeepers or whatever. In any sort of industry, in any sort of space you play in, there will always be gatekeepers. But in the influencer industry, I don't necessarily peg the gatekeepers being in the actual influencers themselves. The gatekeepers lie in the brands, and I'll tell you why. Because let me give an example. If a brand finds a influencer that produces great work that gets them the numbers, they feel inclined to use that influencer again over running the risk of using one new influencer and losing their money, right? Brands, like any other organization, have KPIs, which for anybody who doesn't know, key performance indicators. They have goals to achieve, they have numbers to obtain. The competition is intense, right? And there are a lot of really good influencers, and then you have the ones that are at the top that are always recommended, that are the best at what they do. They're just amazing at what they do, and you just feel like you feel it, especially when you're a small influencer jumping into that space. You feel it, and that is the con. It's very what's the word, disappointing. It's very like it's disheartening to wake up and know that even when you work so hard and you produce such great content, that you're bound to end up being superseded by influencers with larger numbers, right? Or influencers who have already gained that brand reputation. And I say about gatekeepers that I think a lot of the times brands will lean towards people that they know can produce those KPIs and give them that content rather than take the risk on new influencers. But definitely know that is changing, okay? Brands are now realizing the strength of micro influencers and taking 10 micro influencers and getting the same outcome as to one macro influencer. I'm so grateful to see it change, because I think as a macro influencer, the one thing I've felt I've succumbed to, and I had to have a long, hard talk with myself, is feeling like I'm accepting a lot of brands because I'm a macro influencer, and not accepting the brands that I value or the brands that I resonate with and that will be believable to my audience. I think with COVID and everything happening and a lot of influencers feeling like, you know what guys, we're suffering right now, we tend to take things out of, you know. So with micro influencers, you know that you're bound to get a real impact to the people that you're trying to reach out to, especially when you're trying to reach out to middle class, low class, even high class. High class, you have the influencers for that. But because we are in a middle class society a lot, I always advocate for micro influencers because I feel like they have the ability to create that realistic impact. Whereas macro influencers, because they have the numbers, it's easy to be fooled by the numbers. So that's definitely it. The next one that I want to talk about is the long road to brand partnerships. Brand partnerships don't occur overnight. They might not even occur in the first year or the second year. To be an influencer and a content creator, it needs to start within the passion. If you don't have the passion, it's like any job. If you don't have the passion, I swear you're gonna run out of steam and you're not even going to see brand partnerships. You know what I mean? I've seen a lot of influencers that get brand partnerships, but these are influencers I've been following for years prior. So when they get these brand partnerships, like, oh yes, they're so deserving because they definitely align with the brand, they align with what they stand for, because they have been doing this for so long. And then you see new influencers who are always trying to advocate, like, hey guys, I need to get a brand partnership, and it's also like the road to brand partnerships is long and hard, especially if you're not someone that either gets viral overnight, get a viral video, And I say this because I'm one of those people where I never got anything viral. I never did anything, like it was never like an overnight sensation. All of this is a build-up. So taking about 3 to 5 years to get to the point where I wanted to be is a long road, and the last thing I would ever want to do is falsify that information to say, if you want to be an influencer, you can be one. You can, but the truth is it does take time and it takes patience, but it takes passion. And I value passion over anything, because you can see when someone's passionate about what they do, and you can definitely see when someone's doing something because it's money driven or it's value driven, but you can see when someone's doing something because down to their core it's what they want to do. The next con is definitely working more than what you're paid. That's the one thing influencers don't tell you, is that we work a lot more. And especially in the first few years, we definitely get exploited. Like, you definitely, and I hate that it's this rite of passage where as an influencer, it's always encouraged to do some free work, create that brand relationship, but that brand relationship is never really guaranteed. So I hate that term as to say, we need to create these brand partnerships, but we need to start with free stuff, take their PR, post it. There was one particular brand, and no hate, no shade, there was one particular alcohol brand that I could see was leveraging off paying macro influencers, but was sending micro influencers free stuff. And that alcohol brand was appealing to micro influencers, or the micro influencers, the people that they were sending free stuff to were the people that were creating more of a hype around that drink. And it was so sad to see how brands didn't, they basically gave them a high hi, thanks so much for posting us and sharing us and and getting everyone to drink it, because you see it from your friend. You're like, oh my god, I want to drink that. But your friend got it for free as a PR, and then you've got a macro influencer, someone you wouldn't even relate to, who's getting paid to drink that drink. And you know, when I saw that campaign and it went on and on and on, and I was just like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know about this, you know? And it was so sad, because it was like, as much as they know that macro influencers will always give them the awareness, but to be really honest with you, as a marketing expert, I'd like to call myself, because I definitely studied marketing to master's level, it's always the micro influencers who are going to give you a more accurate indicator of who is consuming your actual product. Macro influencers will always give you awareness, but it's always the lack of relatability. It's like, you don't even drink that, or you don't even like that, or you don't even wear that. So those are the cons sometimes, that you work for more than what you paid. It's always like it boils down to, and I hate to call it exploitation, because exploitation just makes it sound worse, right? It makes it sound so dreadful, but you always end up doing things for more. And when you have so much value to give, but in your mind it's, I'm doing this for the long run, but the long run is never really guaranteed. So that really sucks, and I hate that, and I hate my micro influencers going through that, and I hate it even more because I went through that. So it kind of really sucks, but it is what it is. Even one of my best friends, Sanzo, went through that, where they just promised him this whole idea that he's gonna work with this alcohol brand. We sat, we recorded a video, only for them never to contact him again. Yep, that is the truth. Another con about being an influencer is value versus money. And I think I've bared witness to this lately, where are you doing something that you feel is of value to you, or are you doing something for the sake of money? You know, sometimes that is our job to influence, and it is our job to promote something, especially when the money is really good, but you get so stuck. It's between a morale versus, you know, I even remember speaking about this on the timeline, but even back in school, where I was like, there's no such thing as an organization that can have moralities but also still want profit. You know, they're mutually exclusive. If you're profit driven, high chances are your morale will be all the way down. When I talk about morale, I'm saying that companies that normally are profit driven don't care or don't emphasize on the humanitarian aspect of it. So they don't care about workers' rights. They don't care about that. They'll overwork you, whatever the case may be. So there's always an imbalance. And companies that normally do care about morale, a lot of the time their profits don't really, you know. But some companies have managed to find that balance. But I've always said that there is no morale where profits are involved. And we know we've had this back and forth. Yeah, companies are starting CSI initiatives, and companies are and I'm like, but those initiatives don't really guarantee that the company as a whole is a whether it's ergonomically sustainable or whatever. Okay, I'm going into marketing terms, but looking at it from a, what do you call this thing in management? Let me find the word. When you care about the people that work in your company, when you care about the morale, with the good standing of your company, a lot of the times companies that are concerned with profit don't concern themselves with good standing. They may appear to project that, but a lot of the time it's really imbalanced. Companies that have great profits will end up having sweatshops. Companies that sell so much will end up having young laborers, like kids. So you're just like, it all boils down to, do you pick something that you believe is of value to you, or do you pick it for money? And I'm guilty to have done something like this, where I wouldn't call it desperation, but my need to make money outweighed my ability to see whether I could share value with this brand. And that's the one thing I hate about being an influencer, because you're always caught between a brand that you might not even relate to, but that brand is paying you triple what you're used to as an influencer. So what do? It's a hard one. And then the last one, constantly having to find other streams of income. One thing people don't realize is that influencers can make money, but influencers need to find other streams of income. You can't be an influencer at 46, bro. And the thing about being an influencer, you could be an influencer today and be gone tomorrow. Like Jay-Z's song. None of that real shit's gonna last, you know? So what we don't tell you is that, well, influencers, is that you always have to find multiple streams of income. And I've been very honest and transparent to my channel about my income, right? I've been very honest and transparent because I felt like that was the only way I was going to be able to teach, share. But influencers, when they don't have multiple campaigns, which is why I don't blame influencers for having multiple campaigns that might be a little bit like kind of, what's the word, conflicting, because one stream of income won't suffice for 3 months unless you get long-term partnerships. Multiple streams of income are important as an influencer, so I would never ever suggest you quitting your job to be a full-time influencer. I would suggest you taking on the path of being an influencer when you realize that you are too overwhelmed and that you are doing well and successful in this state of being an influencer. You can be an influencer and still have a full-time job. But once this starts to outweigh and impact your job, or you're doing really well and you feel like this is what you want to take on full-time, that's when you can really consider it. But there's nothing wrong with having multiple streams of income, and I embrace it. And that's one of the things that people don't tell you, that they're like, I'm an influencer, but you're also an accountant. You're also a strategist. Okay, don't talk about how great influencing is if you literally only earn if you earn like 35K a month on top of the money that you're making as an influencer. You know, a bit of it sometimes is so, it's such a facade where we create this thing where, oh, all our income comes from influencing. It's a lie. It's a lie, my dear. My dear. Okay, well, personally for me, my dad emancipated me a long time ago. So by a long time ago, I mean probably last year. But what I'm trying to say is, I want us to all be honest about the fact that it is important to have streams of income, because influencing is a very volatile game. 1 minute you're this influencer making this much money, the next day is a younger, prettier version of you, or a better TikToker, or a better YouTuber, or a better mukbanger. I don't know. It's just one of those things where I wish people were more realistic about influencing, and that not create this idea that it's just so perfect then you can survive off of it, because 80% of the time you don't really survive off of it, you know what I mean? And it's one of the reasons that pushed me to work so hard on my Google AdSense, because I knew that that was my only stable income. 1 minute I could be making how much X amount of money, the next month I could be making half of that. The next month I might not make anything. So there's one thing I learned from Sibi Mapena, who said she always wants to make something that can last her 3 months, because that gives her like a contingency plan to figure out what she can do for the next 3 months, but at least she's set. And that's kind of the mentality I've gotten to now, where I want to make money that I know will last me for the next 6 months, whether or not I get a campaign. And for the next 6 months, I know that I can sustain myself, my life, my needs, my wants, but also understanding that in that 6 months, I'm still looking for work. I'm not sitting, lying down. I'm looking for work. I'm looking for more, concrete things, because that's this game. It's very volatile. It's very culture-based. It's very time-based. It's centered around what is happening right now. But anyway, guys, I think that is most of what I really wanted to share with you guys about the reality of being an influencer, the cons, the other side that nobody really tells you about. Please comment down below if you are an influencer or a content creator and you've experienced any of the things that I've mentioned above. But until then, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. I really hope it was informative and helpful in some small way or the other. But yeah, guys, we've reached the end of this video. I love you guys so much. I can't wait to see all your content, and I will see you guys in my next YouTube video. Bye.